So in today's video I'm going to talk about some hopefully interesting tips and tricks when it comes to applying for jobs at Amazon if you are a Chinese candidate. And the main reason why I'm doing this video is of course because the number of Chinese candidates that have started contacting me and reporting with great feedback in the comment section of the videos have been continuously increasing, and I think it makes sense to give some more targeted and specific advice to these types of candidates. And I'd like to begin with the importance of language, the importance of being fluent in English. And the first thing you should keep in mind is this very much applies to the seniority of the role that you're talking about. If you're applying for a junior role, the importance of speaking English is not the main highlight of any interview. In fact, I know people that got hired of Chinese descent that cannot really speak English. I mean, they speak understandable English, but understandable not from the first sentence. So they must repeat their sentences in order to make sure that you understand them. So the main takeaway here is that if you're applying for a junior role, don't worry about your English speaking skills. There are a lot more important things to talk about, which I'll touch upon next. Now, when it comes to senior roles, of course, the importance of speaking English increases. However, Amazon has traditionally been quite permissive when it comes to English speaking skills. So long as you are able to communicate ideas sufficiently, you should be good to go here. Now, of course, you know, there is a balancing act here, and it also depends very much upon your CV. How well can you speak English as well? So you must also ensure that, for instance, if you don't have an amazing CV, then probably you could also compensate with your English speaking skills and so on. So this is how it works when it comes to English speaking skills. Now, the second point that I want to talk about here is how do you prepare for the Amazon interview? And of course, this varies by the seniority of the role and by for what step of the interviewing process you're preparing for, such as the first phone interview or for the Amazon loop. But as a general advice here, you should probably know that you must be good at what you're applying for. But further than this, Amazon is very much interested in leadership skills. So ensure that you understand what leadership means, and especially what servant leaders look like. And this is prior to getting into anything else with respect to Amazon. So make sure that leadership is something that you take seriously. The second point in the preparation process is to take those 14 leadership principles at Amazon seriously. When I'm saying this, I mean to really read them besides their titles and also read their descriptions, and try to brainstorm some stories for highlighting these principles and the behaviors in the principles themselves. And actually this is the second part of preparing for the Amazon principles, to prepare a few stories for them. Now, which principles are the most relevant to your specific role? For junior roles, they usually restrain at least to fewer, maybe 4 or 5 principles. You can ask your recruiter which of the leadership principles to prepare for. For the more senior roles, as a general rule, all principles apply, and you will most likely be rated for each and every one of them, unless stated otherwise. Also, a golden mine to decide on which principles are the most relevant is also to look at the core competencies that result from the job description on the Amazon.jobs website. Now, what's an efficient strategy to ensure that you're doing great with these things? That is role play. So you should have someone to role play with. You can book time with me if you want, but role play is a crucial element to ensure that you're really good with these things. And I'm not only talking role play for the loop, but I'm also talking role play when doing the phone interview, because even during the phone interview that you can write all the answers down, but unless you speak your answers out loud previously, believe me, they won't sound well from the first try or even the second try, especially if you don't have experience with these things. So really the best thing you could ever do to prepare for the behavioral part of the Amazon interview is through role play. The third thing that I wanted to talk about here are some, maybe not some obvious things to expect from the Amazon interview, mainly because of the possible cultural differences and also possibly of the political differences. So the first thing here is that it is normal for US job candidates to advertise themselves in job interviews, and this is how the job market in the US works. So how do you advertise yourself? Well, that's a great question, which I'm sure you can spend time on to define your own brand, and this is the main takeaway from this one. The second thing that might be not obvious to understand here is to memorize things. So it is to some extent easier to remember information if you memorize it. However, you also have a side effect of this, of getting a good chance of sounding like scripted, either during a phone interview or on an on-site interview, and this is not a good thing. Amazon is not looking for people that act in a robotic fashion. So this is one of the main reasons why they put a lot of emphasis in their leadership training. So of course, now if you want to read those 14 leadership principles 10 times, the chances are you will memorize a good part of this. But talking about the approach here, you should, in my opinion, you shouldn't go in with a strategy such as I want to memorize them so I can remember them while employing them within their answers, or even further to memorize my answers to give them for whatever phone or on-site interview. And last but not least here, I often recommend people to prepare the 35 most asked questions during an Amazon interview, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I believe it's a great accelerator for people that don't have a lot of time and which want to get an idea on how the Amazon interviewing process works. However, this is not by far enough for the Amazon interview. So as I discussed in my previous point, there are a lot more things to prepare and which you should take seriously. Now, the fourth and the last piece of advice here is when it comes to how you look at the Amazon interviewing process as a whole. And I have a good amount of people that are applying for the second or the third time for a job at Amazon, and this is very, very common and normal. So when I'm assuming you're applying for the first time here, when you're applying for the first time, ensure that you employ a strategy where you build your preparation process from the ground up. And this is in order to help yourself. If you will not be successful in your first try, then the second time you try, you will have the possibility to build upon what you first decided. And it's very important to look at this as a journey instead of a destination. This is what many people don't take seriously, and what they basically end up doing is they prepare the second time as much as they prepare the first time. And of course, you don't want to learn the same thing twice, because you could employ your time for much better purposes here. And something else that I've found very, very interesting is to really start the conversation. I have many people whom I speak with, whom I talk with about their Amazon interview, and many of these conversations started from the comment section of my YouTube videos. So try to get as much information as you can from as many sources as you can, because this will help you to build your own approach to the Amazon interview. And of course, you should report. You should also be the type of guy who shares information about the Amazon interview, not the one that you are not allowed to share, but some useful tips and tricks for other people that consider applying for jobs at Amazon, because I found this to be another very interesting differentiator between successful and less successful candidates. So there you go. I hope you found this information useful, and thank you very much for watching.